Okay, everyone, it is 10:50. Just give me um, in the reactions, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Send me in the text box if you can't hear. All right, thank you guys so much for giving me some feedback for that. I always think these Zoom meetings are really hard to um, make sure that everyone is okay technologically. So I just want to let everyone know that I am recording this session. So if you need to look back at anything, I think they told me that I could share the link through the Padlet. So that's what I will do after this session is over. Okay, this is for world language teachers, and it's putting the world in the world languages. My name is Robin Purdy. I am an ESL teacher right now with Hamilton County ESC, but previously I spent 11 years as a Spanish teacher in rural Adams County. So if you could just put in the chat box what it is that you teach, just so I kind of have an idea what languages we have here and who's in our group today. Okay, so it looks like Spanish is most common. We have a little bit of French and one ELL as well. Perfect. Okay. So my experience, this is a picture from when I went to Morocco, and this is kind of this is a project that has evolved from my Fulbright stay, but it says the world's greatest problems do not result from people being unable to read and write. They result from people in the world from different cultures, races, religions, and nations being unable to get along and to work together to solve the world's intractable problems. This is from James A. Banks. And this was a reading that we did for our Fulbright study. And this is kind of where I latched onto as a world language teacher that yes, we need to teach the word, and literacy is completely necessary, but not sufficient for solving the problems that we have around the world. And so this is where I kind of latched on the idea that we need to teach the word and the world together. And a little bit about my experience as a Spanish teacher. I started out, I was taught using the grammar method, and I was taught to learn the structure of the language first. And then I realized I kind of switched over to proficiency-based learning when I became a teacher, and I saw that students were so much more responsive and engaged. They wanted to learn about the culture through the language. And now, since my Fulbright, I've kind of switched to I want to teach about all cultures, not just Spanish speaking cultures. And I want to make sure that my students are prepared for just to face any differences that they're going to see with anyone. And that's just a life skill that we can pass on to our students. So that's kind of my evolution of teaching grammar, then culture, and now just differences and tolerance and a curiosity of wanting to understand about the other person. On the left side, you have the ways that are easiest to reach me. I'm on Twitter. My email is there. My Instagram is mostly travel. And then I do have a YouTube channel just with some classroom clips and some travel videos that I have put together. So about me, I spent 11 years as a Spanish teacher in very rural Adams County, Peebles, Ohio, where I was the only teacher of Spanish and actually the only language teacher at all. So I juggled 4 preps. So I kind of felt like this emoji right here. And we were one-to-one devices. So that gives you kind of an idea of for the activities that I used with my students. When I'm not teaching, I'm traveling, trying to get all the places on my bucket list. And we also travel around. I travel with my sister to roller coasters. So I can either be traveling on a roller coaster or reading by the pool somewhere. So that's just a little bit about me. Professionally, I have been a part of the Ohio Department of Education's World Language Network of Regional Leaders. And that is basically a liaison between the ODE and the teachers. So the teachers in Southern Ohio. I've also been on the standards writing committee for the newest world language and culture standards. And part of this presentation is based on, I am an alumni of the Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms cohort from 2018 to 2019. So I want to talk about that program a little bit as well. So how this program is set up for Teachers for Global Classrooms, it is a year-long professional development opportunity. It is for all teachers, not just for world language teachers. It is for all age levels as well. In the fall, there is an online class over global education. And then in winter, I think it was about February, all of our 75 fellows and also an administrator from each of those schools attended a global education symposium in Washington, D.C. And then in the spring and summer, groups go out to 6 different countries. So my selection was Morocco, but that year, and I went in the springtime for 2 weeks, but other groups went to Senegal, Peru, Colombia, India, and the Philippines. And then over the summer, you have time to develop basically a capstone project. And so mine right there is linked, and it's called Small Town Big World. And I will put this link as well in the chat box for everyone. Okay, so basically on that you can see there'll be resources for studying, for teaching, and there's also a travel blog on there as well from the Morocco trip. Okay, so the goals of this session are to, number 1, define global competence. Number 2 and 3 is to talk about 2 strategies. One is picture talk and one is the interact feature with native speakers. And then in the end, to brainstorm how to globalize. And I will show you some examples of how you can kind of adapt lessons from the more traditional grammar focus. And I originally presented this at ACTFL with 2 other Fulbright alumni and who are also world language teachers. So I'm going to share with you their units as well, so you can have access to all of that and to their global education guides too. All right, so a little bit of the definitions. All right, we're going to watch just a 1-minute clip from the Asia Society about what is global competence.
There are 4 key elements of global competence. Global competence starts by being aware, curious, and interested in learning about the world and how it works. Students are able to ask globally significant questions, analyze evidence from multiple sources, and develop an argument that draws defensible conclusions. Students recognize that they have a perspective and someone else may or may not share it. They weigh all sides and from that incorporate different perspectives into their point of view. Globally competent students effectively communicate their ideas with diverse audiences, including through the use of appropriate technology. While English is the primary language of business, speaking another language is important for collaborating across borders. By applying what they have learned, students can translate their ideas into appropriate actions to discover solutions for both local and global challenges. We now face a critical imperative to prepare all students for work and civic roles in an environment where success increasingly requires the ability to compete, connect, and cooperate on an international scale.
Okay, has anyone heard of the Asia Society before, just by comments in the chat box? Okay. So Asia Society is for all content areas, not just for world language, but world language is a part of it. So this is a really good four-part overview. And so we're going to use this definition of global competence. And then I'm going to combine it with the definition of intercultural competence. And so these are from the Necessful, Actful, Intercultural Can-Do statements, and I linked them in the presentation as well. And you'll notice that most of our most recent standards are based on these can-do statements. And there are two parts that are most important, is to investigate and also to interact. Now, for me, I was in a rural area and my students could investigate all the time, but the interaction was going to be hard and it needed to be intentionally planned. So that is kind of my goal going into this Fulbright. So I want to explain a little bit. I want to compare the two of them together so you can see. So global competence on the left is not world language specific. So it has investigate, recognize perspectives, communicate, and take action. And then the intercultural competence, we have investigate and interact. So if you look, they're basically similar. Investigate and the perspectives, it takes the first half, and then communicate and take action would be the same as interact. So I like that both of them begin with investigate, but I like that you have to do something with what you've learned in order to be interculturally and globally competent. And these are things that we studied in the online course. Okay, so one of the strategies that we're going to talk about is picture talks. It's a little bit harder virtual, but we're going to try just a little example, kind of we would have done an example of how I would have been in class or how I would have carried out this. So my field experience was in Morocco. And a lot of people ask me, you know, how did my field experience in Morocco enhance my Spanish classroom? Because I didn't teach Arabic. Well, the thing was that I know I could have gone to Peru or Colombia, but I specifically asked to be out of my comfort zone and I wanted to be a novice language learner again. I think it's important for us to revisit those feelings and to understand how overwhelming it is, even to learn basic language. So my French, I did take one semester of French in college, so I was doing Duolingo in French because I had no idea how to read Arabic. But yeah, so that was a good introduction to me of trying to figure out a new language again. Modeled global citizenship as students followed along with me on the trip in real time. So I kept a Flipgrid with videos posted from my students, and so every morning when they came into class, they would look and see what I was doing for that day or what I had done the day before, and so they got to kind of follow along with me on my trip and see what I was doing. Morocco and Spain do have overlap in their history, and there were some cities along the coast that did speak Spanish still, like the older generations. And so Arabic and Spanish also had an overlap. I would hear my friend, she was our host for the Fulbright, and she was an English teacher, but I would hear her say things like, refer to her shoes, and I thought, wait, that sounds like a Spanish word. So we found a lot of overlap between Arabic and Spanish. And then there were lots of cultural themes that can go across all languages, because I can talk about any topic in Spanish, but I use the cultural theme. So if you look at this, I put my pictures together by topic once it loads. Okay, so for example, I had pictures about schools, and I put all of those pictures about schools together. I did pictures about natural resources. And so I kind of do this after I travel, that I want my students to focus on pictures and not necessarily descriptions. I want them to ask the questions and to focus first. I did clothing and then the food section and hosting. And women in Morocco was a big question that a lot of my students had questions about. All right, so feel free to use those if you need examples of photos as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about a see, think, wonder. And basically the point of this is to discuss with your partner, or you know, that you would have partners matched up in class, that you would say what you see, objective observations. So this is to avoid students from just saying, that's dumb, like, oh, that's, why would they do that? So it's very interesting that to keep those judgments. Okay, that's the main thing that I have with my students, was to keep the judgments until a later discussion, and to have reasons to back up those. And so basically to keep an open mind. So and plus this works with novices when they don't have as much language as well. So what they can point out colors, they can point out food items. Then after that, then we can go into I think and I wonder. So just for an example, for this picture that we're looking at, so most of my students could observe that there was pan or bread. They could observe that there was frutas. I think they did platos. One of my students pointed out pies, because we don't have shoes on, or we just have socks. Someone said casa. Someone said chica, chico, and some colors that we pointed out. And then they said plantas as well, because we were outside. So that was a good idea for just a good basis for just getting started, that what they saw in the picture. And the more that you stay with this picture, the more that they notice. Like they'll notice the satellite dish, maybe the carpet that's around, the cushions. And if they have problems saying those words, then they'll tell me in English, and then we add them to the board with our vocabulary so that they can use them in future conversations as well. Okay, then we go into I think and I wonder. So I think this is his house. I think he is happy. I wonder what's in the cups. Things like that students can put together their with their language. It depends on what level they're at, of course. But I think this is, even the questions that students would ask me, I think it's okay to be comfortable with not having all the answers. We're used to us being the experts, but at the same time, I mean, I was new to this culture. So what I actually did was, any questions that we had, for example, one question that came up about clothing, the students were, especially the girls, were very interested in the girls' headscarves. And they asked me, well, do they ever get to go swimming? You know, can they swim with their headscarf? And I didn't know the answer to the question. So I contacted my friend from Morocco, some of my contacts there, and I asked her, and she said, oh yeah, we have a burkini. And the burkini is made from swimsuit material, but it's conservative and keeps them covered. So I think it's good that students see that we are still learning as well, and that we don't have all the answers, but that curiosity keeps going. So we're gonna try the next thing. We're gonna do 6 photos and just gonna do I see. So you can put it in the chat box, that's fine. So just what do you see in the picture? It can be short one answer, it can be colors, whatever you see. Mm-hmm. Yes, I had students that also said the same thing about that they thought that was melon. Um, and it's actually some kind of squash, but that was perfect that because my students said the same thing. Love it. Yep. The scale, good job. Good catch. The umbrella. See, there's more things in the photo that people might not notice. Okay, we're gonna go to the next picture. Okay, what do you see? Mm-hmm. Yep. Colors and flavors. I love that. Even in the distance, maybe some tints, tarps. Okay, picture number 3 of 6. What do you see? it looks like vino, but it's actually Coca-Cola, and that would be a good thing to discuss with the students because they were Muslim and they did not drink alcohol. So we have some water, pillows, definitely, bread. Okay, I think this is picture 4. What do you see? Mm-hmm. Hard-boiled eggs. Mm-hmm. Hands, yes. I was wondering who would point that out. Right. So that could even be a wonder thing later too. All right, this is kind of a similar picture, but a different setting. What do you see? Mm-hmm. I just noticed on the tissue box there's Arabic. That would also be something that my students would notice. More hands as well. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is perfectly okay to ask for something with a question mark. Yes. I think this is the last one. Okay, now what do you see? Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Meat curing, meat market, scale, grinder. I think there's bread in the window as well. Okay, so you guys did great, obviously, because you guys are world language teachers. So now what I would do is I would put all 6 of these on the same screen and we would have a conversation now. I would say, okay, and sometimes this might be in English depending on their level, but what do you think and what do you wonder? What are some types of things that you have questions for me about? Maybe I can answer them, maybe I can't. What are you curious about, basically? So some examples from my students are recipes. How did it taste? Good. My students asked me, why are people eating with their hands? I wonder why. I think it's a market. I think they buy their food and eat outdoors. I wonder why they have eggs and mix in with meat. So I wanted to give you just a quick overview. This would have started our conversation, but sometimes I think it's better that students start out with their curiosity instead of saying, okay, here I have a presentation and I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you all about insert the culture here. So, but I'll give you guys an overview. So number 1 is at the market. 2 is at the market with lentils and spices. Number 3 is what a typical meal would look like. So you have in the center of numbers 3, 4, and 5, you have like a communal plate, and then you have bread. And so you use the bread to grab the meat and to eat kind of basically as your utensil. You only use your right hand. Your left hand is considered dirty in the Muslim faith. And but and hard-boiled eggs also goes along with it. The meat, however, I wanted to tell you is camel meat. So, and actually, camel meat is pretty tasty. I found out that it tastes like beef, except it's supposed to be better for you, and it doesn't have as much fat in it. But if you look at number 6, that kind of like elongated form that's hanging in the middle of the picture, that is the camel hump, and they actually eat the camel hump. They cut it up kind of like as gristle and add it as flavoring to the other things, to the other meat that they're cooking. All right, so does everyone kind of get an idea? This is how you would start off and get the students engaged in the conversation simply by using a picture talk. Let me see. Okay, another way to use picture talk, this is from the creative language class. And another way is to identify aspects of culture. So this is a student reflection. It's open-ended. The students can decide what types of culture they want to focus on, what things they want to notice. So we have food, economics, language, transportation, education, art, government, clothing. And then what you do is the students will pick out the aspect of culture that they want to talk about, give a little description of what they noticed. This is the observe part, the I see, and then to give you their opinion about it after that. So let me give you an example. I put the source down there at the bottom. Okay, so I would put up this side-by-side pictures. On the left is a picture of outside my school in Peoples, Ohio, and then on the right is a picture outside the school that that hosted me in Morocco. And so we would do the same thing with students. What do you see? And then we would ask, what aspect of culture do you see? So for example, a lot of my students pointed out the government because we have 2 different flags in the center of each photo. Some of my students pointed out clothing. It's hard to kind of see, but in some of the other pictures you can see that the students have white like lab coats when they're coming into the classes versus the jeans and t-shirt that is at Peebles. Also the different age levels at Peebles. And then we talked about transportation. So students are going home on the bus from the rural area in Ohio, and then students are walking to school from in Morocco. So this is one example. I'm trying to think if there's any other, let's see, clothing, activities, language, transportation, and education. So that's one example that you could leave it open for your students to see what they observe. You could almost do this as an exit ticket and then have it ready for the class the next day to see what they want to talk about. Okay, more thinking models besides just I see, I think, I wonder, is called the OC, and it's still observe, state objectively, explore possibilities, and then evaluate. So it's holding off on that judgment until the very end. Another one is called hypothesis refinement, and this one was introduced to me through Martina Becks. And again, it starts with observe. You go ahead and give your opinion, but then you learn more, and then you incorporate that into your opinion and start again and make a new observation. So I like that it's cyclical, that it keeps on learning. So I'm gonna give me some drink of water real fast. Okay. So those are a couple examples, but if you can see, observe is always first, and then the opinion comes later. And this is called the image model. So images and making observations where you only use fact questions about the image. This is when I use a lot of social media just to get the main ideas from the social media post, and then analyze additional info. So like, for example, I would only show the visual right here. I would clip that part. And so it says, may the blessings of Allah fill your life with happiness and open all doors of success now and always. I can see there's archways, things that, observations that I see. And then I would widen the scope a little bit and show the additional information. So additional text, data in the target language, anything over here in the comments, I would be able to see, okay, there's little icons that I can see that a gift, so it's probably a holiday where there's gift giving. I can have Arabic, I can see English text, but does not look like English. And this is how they write Arabic using the Latin alphabet. So there's lots of details that you can look. Also, you can look about like how many likes it has, when was the date. There's all kinds of extra details that you can use, and students are good at finding out that context. And then generate hypotheses about these perspectives. So I think it might be a holiday. I think it might be a holiday where they give gifts. I think it might be in an Arabic speaking country. Those are just some examples. And then reflect and explore the perspective. So we can match up our students with people in the target language that can actually answer some of these questions, or we can send them to a source. And so then we investigate and explore the perspective, and then we might have more questions and go with another image and making observations. It just keeps going, more layers to the understanding. This is a great presentation by Brenna Bird, and she used Instagram as a cultural picture dictionary. So she actually had students go in to Instagram and search family in the target language, and to see what kinds of pictures came up, and to see how people define family. She has a lot of great ways to use the target language in Instagram if you click on her presentation right there. Another thing is to make a thing link. So this is a visual, but these are hyperlinks. So this is typical dishes of Cusco, but everything is links with recipes, whoever wanted recipes earlier. And we have YouTube videos, information about the ingredients. And so it's very interactive so that students can find out more by just clicking on the picture. Okay, so we're back to remembering that we're investigating first and then interacting and taking action. So this is the hardest part for my students. It's pretty easy to investigate as much as we can through picture talks and just through conversations, but interacting within the language and behavior is a harder, sorry for my messages, is a little bit harder for our students, and it's more intimidating for our students as well. So I want to show you some examples of how I have had my students interact with other cultures to be able to find out more. Okay, so the first thing is the Pulsera project, and I have been involved with this nonprofit. It helps students learn about fair trade, fair wages. We talk about the economy, the minimum wage, the cost of living in Guatemala and Nicaragua, where the artists are from. And they have done a really great job of providing a personalized profile of each artist. So, and then each bracelet comes with a signature and a photo so that it's not like a barcode, it's more personalized. We talk about housing, we talk about the daily routine of living in Guatemala and Nicaragua, and we talk about the importance of solidarity versus charity, of helping and not just, but helping them sustain their own lifestyle as well. So it is a completely free thing that you can do with your students. You just sign up. They send you all the poster board that you see, all the bracelets, and then you sell them each for $5, and all the proceeds go back to the artists for their housing and loans and education and health insurance and things like that. So it's a great way, minimal prep for the teacher, and there's all kinds of lessons and things that go along with it. So it's a great way for to get your students interacting from a local set. Another thing is the classic pen pal letters, and handwritten is better, but I found that I can scan them digitally and get them to the destination faster than waiting for the mail. And then the students, we did kind of like a speed dating to figure out who wanted to talk with each pen pal. So we had like 2 minutes or so, and then we just kept rotating letters. And then at the end, everyone picked a letter that they wanted to respond to. And then the students connected on social media. And so they were talking way longer in the school year past when we had done this lesson, which was great. Another thing that I talked about before in some other presentations is a classroom exchange. When I went to Morocco, then I had my students make videos about their homes, their school, their food, their hobbies. And then when I went there, I had my students in the English learning students in Morocco, then they were able to respond. I also had videos from me each day, just so they could see what I was doing and follow along with my trip. Another way to use a classroom exchange is on Flipgrid. You can search for grid pals, and so that matches up classrooms that want to have an exchange. Pen Pal Schools is a great organization. You can post if you want to chat as a class instead of as individuals. You can share links and posts in Padlet, and then people can respond to who they want to. Back channel is another thing, or just a shared Google folder is another way as well. It's just you don't have that back and forth, the interpersonal, as much as you would on a Padlet or something like that. You can also invite an expert. This was a friend that we wanted to hear from someone to talk about the immigration process. And so in the United States, so we set up a video interview, students prepared the questions, but let's say you don't have an actual person, you can also check on education.skype.com or Skype Classroom, tweet them, say what you're looking for, what kind of expert you need for your class, And don't be afraid to just ask people, even on Twitter, authors. A lot of people just are willing, they just never thought about it. So it's a great way to bring people into your classroom and connect them. Mystery Skype is also a great way to get students connected. It's basically 20 questions, yes or no questions, to be able to guess the other school's location. So this was a school in Mexico, and the teacher and I knew which state each other was from, but the students had to ask yes or no questions to be able to figure out which state it was. And then towards the end, we opened up a Google Doc, and some students who were wanting to share their social media information did. And so they kept chatting in English and Spanish the rest of the year. So Gina Ruffcorn is on Twitter, and she has loads of experience with Mystery Skype and matching up other experts with Skype as well. Okay, so the very last section is globalizing your units. So I know it's a lot of information. We just have about, how much time do we have left? 10 minutes, I think. Yeah. Okay, so for this unit plan, I based it on immigration, and I based it on the Where I'm From poems, and trying to personalize the stories of immigrants around the world. So if you look at this link, you're going to go to the teaching part of my global education guide. And then here I have a lot of links to things that can help you incorporate the world into your world language classroom. And then I have this presentation that I use to help. So before I would teach, okay, students have to learn big numbers, okay? Well, then after going through the Fulbright, then I changed it to students will research the monthly minimum wage, chart this information, and we did percentages to see how much it covered for the cost of living. Another example is students can name school supplies in Spanish versus students can analyze school supply lists around the world, talk about the obstacles that exist, talk about clothing items and colors versus showing the identity. We talked about Indigenous women in Guatemala. So this is just something that you can click through and kind of see the person's physical experience. Sarah Elizabeth Cottrell at Musicuentos, she came up with a survey. And so when they talk about the most beautiful people, that how they were qualified. So she ranked their hair color, their skin color, their eye color, their height, their weight, you know, basically, and to see what is the stereotypical stereotype of beauty. So it was very interesting. So there's several ways that you can go deeper with the culture than just grammar. So I'm going to go back to at the bottom. This is my global unit plan right here. So you can have access to all of that. And here are some others from my cohort. These are for other subject areas, special ed, chemistry, science. And then I'm going to share with you the other units from my colleagues when we did this presentation for ACTFL. So this is a French teacher and her AP course on how can I improve my world. And this works with the Sustainable Development Goals. It's kind of a personal passion project of hers. And you can click on the link and be able to go to see hers. And these are her pictures from when she went to Senegal. She taught French, and so her unit plans become less Eurocentric, which was a great kind of way to open up other areas that speak French. And Katie Haney, hers was about my school life, and it was talking about educational systems. So if you would like to use that, just click on the link so that way you can go to her unit plan. She also was in Senegal, and so she illustrated life in a non-Spanish speaking country and connected students to the world outside of their communities. Most students didn't know anything about Senegal. So I'm leaving you with this information for all three of us. They know that I'm sharing this presentation, and they know they are love talking about global education as much as I do. So you can use any of them as examples, or you can share all of their resources. And if you would like more information on the Fulbright Teachers for Global Classroom program, I have that at the end as well. So we have about 4 minutes left. Any questions for me? I know that was a lot of information all at once. Okay, so how did I get connected for the pen pals? I think I found them on Twitter. I think I found a classroom, but I've also gotten connected in the past with that pen pals organization, and they match up students as well. And so you just kind of put your profile on there, and then find students who are interested. There's also some Facebook groups as well, and but I find Twitter is the most helpful. Any other questions about Morocco, about the Fulbright, about connecting our students? So you guys have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out or share with me any ideas that you guys come up with during this presentation. Thank you.